It is a magnificent Monday. Welcome in SimWorld today. I am Marsh on this May the 13th, the day after Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all mothers out there, and hoping that every single one of you children out there celebrated appropriately with your mother. I'm joined this morning by B-Ron. Good morning, B-Ron. How you doing?
Hey Marsh, I'm doing good, man. Good to be here. Another great day in SimWorld. We got a lot of things to get to, and I'm excited to talk about them with you this morning.
Yeah, we sure do. We sure do. Let's start with the big dogs in the association, where a couple more conference semifinals went down last night. We'll start in sequential order, where the Pacers storm past the Knicks in their walkers, in their casts, in their crutches, in a decimation to even this series at 2 games apiece. To say this is a surprise to me would be exaggeratory, because the Pacers are simply better than what the Knicks have right now with the depleted roster.
Yeah, and if I'm the Knicks now, I was talking about it yesterday with a friend of mine. I'm a little more concerned than I was previously because, like you mentioned, of all of the injuries they have. They're banged up right now, like you said, Marsh. And when you lose a game big like this, I think that just shows your lack of depth. Or lack of production that your depth is getting you, in depending on how you want to slice it. Not good either way for the Knicks.
No, it's not, because here's the thing. Pascal Siakam, I thought, has had a maybe underreported. I don't think underappreciated, because he's been really good. But amongst the success of the Minnesota Timberwolves, the struggles of the Nuggets, the uprising of the Thunder, the drama of the Knicks, the inconsistency of the Celtics, one thing has basically been consistent, and that's been Pascal Siakam ever since the opening round against Milwaukee. He has continued to beaten and batter the folks in front of him. Is he putting up 40-point games 5 times in a row to become the first guard to do it? No, he's not. Is he becoming a 22-year-old sensation that's drawing player comparisons to Michael Jordan? No, he's not. But what he has been doing is giving you 20 to 30 points every single night. And now, without OG Anunoby, the Knicks simply don't have the firepower, and it baffles me. And we know this about Tom Thibodeau. We know that this is how he goes about his business. But it baffles me that they continue to not play bench players, particularly when you look around and say, hey, check it out. Josh Hart's playing 46.4 minutes per game, the most
Yeah,
of any player since two. For what reason? Because you went out, New York, at the trade deadline, and you made some notable deals, most notably to bring in, not most notably, but the most relevant, to bring in Alec Burks. And he plays last night, plays fine. Why are we not investing in some minutes of rest? Because newsflash, New York, nobody except Jalen Brunson can score. And if you're going to run him into the ground, your season's going to be over just as quickly as this uprising began.
yeah, and even last night, Marsh, you mentioned Josh Hart playing 40 minutes. Last night, you only played 24, but like you said,
Because they were getting smoked.
Right, yeah, right. But 40 some minutes over the course of multiple games, it's going to take a toll on you. Regardless. So yeah, and I think the point to Pascal Siakam, it just goes to show that bringing it to some more prep for a minute, that you don't have to be a guy who goes out and gets 40 points a night. You don't have to be that guy. You can still be productive putting up those kinds of numbers, and have a role in a team putting up those kind of numbers. So it's just, we're gonna keep reiterating that point for a reason, March.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is what Siakam's done here against the Knicks, and their 2 wins, 26 in Game 3 on 9 of 14 shooting, 14 last night again in the game that he played 22 minutes on 7 of 9. In wins against Milwaukee, 19 in Game 5 on 9 on 15 shooting. His really one not great game in a win was 13 in their Game 3 win. Otherwise, 17 on 7 of 17, which is fine, and 37 in Game 2. So he's flirting around it, but it's just that consistency. The consistency of being able to show up. And now with the Knicks missing half their roster, unless they decide to actually play their depth, this thing, I think, actually could be over, just because eventually, believe it or not, in a game in which 6'5+ guys dominate, a 6'4" or 6'0" guard is going to run out of steam. News flash. Let's head over to the other side where the steam might be coming out of the sails of the engines of the whatever it is that's manufacturing the Wolves 2-0 start, because the roaring back reigning champs, Denver Nuggets, take a pair on the road to even up their Western Conference semifinals. Should be of no surprise to anybody who looks at Denver and says, we expect a defending champ to come back, and they did that. 2 monumental wins on the road. This is very similar to the Mavericks Clippers series of 3 years ago now, where the road teams just took care of business every time out in that 7-game series. Big night from Jokic, slow night from Karl Anthony Towns, huge night from Edwards, and the series be run tied up at 2 apiece.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised that we're getting this happen, because it was only a matter of time at some point it was going to happen. I feel like, Marsh, whether it be 3 games in or 2 games in or whatever. But sure, the Nuggets came out and lost the first 2 games, but that doesn't really matter because they came back with a vengeance, like you said, in the last 2 games here, 117 and 90 in Game 3, and then last night 115 and 107 in Game 4. So I really think that the Nuggets are, they're obviously in a much better spot series-wise than they were coming in, but with the guys starting to get going here in the series, I think that now, if they weren't before, now Minnesota's going to get the best of the Nuggets the rest of the way.
I think they kind of were. They got smacked. If they didn't get the best of the Nuggets in games 3 and 4, that series is over, because the Nuggets absolutely demolished them the last 2 games. No longer are we sitting here, because the conversation after the first 2 games was, wow, look at what Minnesota did. They solved Nikola Jokic. He can't deal with the size of Rudy Gobert, of Karl Anthony Towns, of Naz Reid. Yeah, he can, because he's the best player in the world. And you solved him too. And I think the worst thing that could have possibly happened for Minnesota was that they played Game 2 last week on, I believe it was Monday or Tuesday night, and they didn't come back around for Game 3 until Friday. And so giving Mike Malone, who's one of the best coaches in SWBA, giving Nikola Jokic, the best player, and giving Jamal Murray, who was playing on a bum calf, 3 to 4 days off to come back to not only game plan, but to come back, get healthier. You're never going to be 100% in the playoffs, but to get healthier was what has flipped this series back to even. But this is what's to be expected. I chatted with, I think it was Rick late last week before Game 3, and the consensus, well, not the consensus, my opinion, don't take a series. You can't dive into a series until you've got 3 games. And that's a cop-out, because in a 7-game series, that's nearly halfway through. But there's so much variance that can occur between
that's a good point,
Game 1. But because it's just, we are prisoners of the moment. You win Game 1, and it's like, this is over. Do we really think? And it's my least favorite argument in all of any team sport in which it's a series to win. Mm-hmm. They win Game 1, and we look at it and say, do we really think they're going to win 4 of the next 6 games? That's not that hard, okay? That's not that hard. You have to play 1 game at a time, okay? They lose 2 in a row. Do we really think they're going to win 4 of the next 5? I sure do. If I got Nikola Jokic on my team, if I got Jamal Murray. It's an idiotic argument, because it completely dismisses, great Monday conversation here, dismisses the fact that we are playing a single game at a time, because you're down 2-0. You win 1, it's suddenly 2-1. Now the pressure is shifting to the opposite side. If you've ever played a team sport, you understand where the desire, the need to win comes from. Now the pressure's on the other side. We get 2-1. It's the Kevin Millar argument in 2004. Don't let us win 1. Because if we win 1, it's 3-1. We got Pedro on the mound. We win that, it's 3-2. Then we got Shill going Game 6. In Game 7, anything can happen. It's the same exact argument here. It's my least favorite argument in team sports, and it's happening.
I totally get what you're saying, Marsh, and I'm right there with you. And again, teams get hot all the time. Teams get cold all the time too. So sure, you can win. Anybody can win 1 game, but can you win 3, 4, 5 in a row? Teams do it all the time during the season. What makes you think you can't do it in the playoffs? Especially during the playoffs, more so during the playoffs. Even when you have more of the energy and emotion that the playoff environment brings you, You know what I mean? That is a whole other element on top of this conversation already, I feel like.
Look, if I'm Minnesota and if I'm looking at this series, what do I think is going to be more likely to occur? Right? Let's just take what we know of their current full bodies of work. Let's start on Denver. Do we think after games 1 and 2, after struggles from Nikola Jokic, the three-time MVP, reigning SWBA Finals MVP, do we think he's going to continue to struggle? Probably not. Do we think Jamal Murray, who struggled in game 1 and 2 again with a 3 to 4 days rest between game 3, do we think he's going to continue to struggle? Probably not. On the other side, do we think Karl Anthony Towns is suddenly going to become the Jokic stopper? Do we think Rudy Gobert, he's been a great defender, I think 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, but he's always been a challenging matchup in the postseason because of his play style. Do we think he's going to be a difference maker? And do we think Anthony Edwards at 22 years old is going to become prime Michael Jordan and carry a team that has, while great defensive pieces, no secondary go-to star? What is more likely to keep going of all those things? It's probably going to, or rather, what's going to flip? It's probably going to be the fact that the defending champions are probably going to just right the ship. And they did that exactly here. All right, let's head to the SimWorld Prep realm of the world, where our game of the week coming up this week, Rocky Mountain Monsters, Bay Area. It's a bit of a, I don't want to call it a head scratcher, but it's a different game of the week than I think we're normally used to. Two teams struggling to put some pieces together. Bay Area 6-man rotation. Rocky Mountain, an elite offense and atrocious defense, each of which prepared to square off. B-Run.
Yeah, it's definitely not one that I would have picked going into the week as well. Looking through, there are a few others here, most notably the Philadelphia Elite Lakeshore game. Sure, Lakeshore struggling still, but they're still, in my opinion, still Lakeshore, you know what I mean? Like Lakeshore Drive, you know what I mean? On Wednesday. But anyway, talk about this game in particular. Yes, we got what we got. And I do think that, Rocky Mountain, we know how good their offense is, but can their defense stop anybody? That's been the question throughout the course of this little run here and all season, really. They're 1-4 in the last 5. Bay Area playing with 6 players, but they're still finding ways to win games, despite everything that's been going on with the team over the last month or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's impressive, honestly, that Dre Pope has kept this team relevant. I think it's also equally, we should tip the cap here to Adonis Knight. We said this, and 100%. This has been more of a stumbling into than Bay Area than a intentional treasure find. But we had this conversation, I want to say, in maybe mid-March, where everyone's making the race to 1. So all we're playing for at this point is seeding. Not to say seeding doesn't matter, because it obviously does, which you'll hear more about on my 2 p.m. podcast. Tune in. But we know if I'm any of these top teams, let's use Bay Area as the example. I knew at the time what Trey Hyman could give me. I knew at the time what all these top flight guys on this roster could provide for me. Why do I then just keep running out the same roster, the same rotation, saying, okay, well, Trey Hyman's going to give me 25 points a game. Or 20 points a game. Let's just keep doing that. Let's keep doing that over and over again. When, in the meantime, you could have been figuring out, hey, we've got an Adonis Knight on our team who apparently, when he's given a full, slate of opportunity, can be really freaking good. It's the same thing that Southeast Select did do efficiently. They turned the ball over to Dexter Jackson and said, hey, Dexter, we kind of need an offensive guy. We're missing our top dude that we found at the beginning of the season. You want to give it a shot? And lo and behold, what do they find out? Dexter Jackson's a dog. I don't understand why more of these teams aren't doing this at this point in the season, at least not now, because now you got to start figuring out the race to 1. Over the last 2 months, where seeding's pretty much figured out, let's just figure out who's there. So that's our game of the week. You touched on it as well, B-Ron. It's an interesting one, but will be worth tuning into. That is on Tuesday night. Thank you. Tuesday, 9 p.m. Elava, Rick Blaze bringing you that one. All right, let's head real quick. 3 games on Saturday. We'll kick it off. Queen City Kings with the beatdown of SimWorld Europe, 81-59. How about 24 points from Taj Journey? Nick Hugo, 12-8-4, an efficient outing from the Hugonator, and Queen City Kings picks up their 11th win of the season.
Yeah, and we spoke about them a minute ago, but Rocky Mountain, continuing to be inconsistent throughout the course of the season. They lose Middle East 67-61 over the weekend. Wasn't a great day for them, as they fall to a team that they probably shouldn't have lost to, but losers anyway all the same.
Yeah, not the offensive showdown you would expect to see, especially from Rocky Mountain. But yeah, Middle East in their Swan Song tour continue to dominate. And then our final game, Heartland Zombie Stars, South America, 77-61. Honcho Hardwick, 18-9. Benari James, 17-2. And the beatdown was on from the jump as Heartland picks up their 15th win of the regular season to get things rolling on the road. That is our Saturday wrap up. That is our show. Appreciate y'all tuning in. SimWorld Prep returns tomorrow night, Tuesday night, with a doubleheader. Queen City Kings Southeast Select at 8 p.m. and then 9 p.m. Rocky Mountain Monsters Bay Area Breakers in the SimWorld Prep Game of the Week. Ton of activity going on, signings coming as players continue to commit to their SimWorld U destinations. We'll cover that as well here in the week to come. But B-Ron, appreciate you tuning in. This has been our Monday show. We'll be back tomorrow morning, bright, early, 8 a.m., bushy-tailed, ready to chat more. We'll talk to you then on SimWorld TV, the only place you could see the game, be the game.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld.